Welcome to Cinema Pro, a podcast where we discuss the latest movies and dive into the world of cinema. I'm your host, Chris, and I'm joined by my friend Jordan, fellow movie buff. Say hey, Jordan.
Hey guys, I'm excited to be here and discuss movies with my buddy Chris. Let's get to it.
Today we're thrilled to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. Join us as we share our thoughts on the film, discuss our favorite moments, and debate some of the most interesting Marvel facts. So get comfortable, grab some popcorn, and turn up your headphones for today's episode. Alright, so today, Jordan, we're going over Spider-Man No Way Home. You know, you saw it, right?
I did see it.
Yeah, so did I. I mean, I think, especially now, most people have seen it.
I would be surprised if you're a Marvel fan, any self-respecting Marvel fan has seen the movie. I think any self-respecting Marvel fan watches a majority of the new content that Marvel puts out, whether it's good or bad. Obviously, someone has to watch it to see if it's going to be bad. I think that generally sways people's opinions on whether they're going to watch something or not. But I think most Marvel fans, it might just be me, but I think most Marvel fans, even if there's negative reviews about a movie or a TV show that Marvel has put out, they're still going to watch it.
I can agree with that. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about it in case you haven't watched it. So like I said, spoiler alert, just in case. Spider-Man No Way Home follows Peter Parker as he tries to deal with the fallout from being outed by, Mysterio. And he's blamed for the death of Mysterio as he seeks help from Doctor Strange to erase people's memories of his secret identity. The spell goes ultimately wrong and unleashes the multiverse, brings several villains from other dimensions into the world. The villains include the Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Jamie Foxx's character?
Electro.
Yeah, Electro. They all pose a threat to Peter and his loved ones, forcing him to team up with the other versions of the other Spider-Men, which are, Tobey Maguire, everyone's favorite. And apparently your favorite, I found this out, Andrew Garfield, to save the world and restore order to the multiverse. Along the way, Peter must confront difficult choices and sacrifices in order to protect those he cares about and set things right. I think that pretty much sums up the movie.
It sums up the movie, but I just wanted to backtrack a little over there. What I was explaining earlier, Andrew Garfield wasn't my favorite Spider-Man of the three, but I really liked him in No Way Home.
I don't know. You sounded pretty convincing earlier.
I think Tobey Maguire is my favorite because first Spider-Man movies I ever watched. I've played the Spider-Man games, and I love the OG Spider-Man suit that you can wear.
It was everyone's first Spider-Man. I mean, technically.
Technically, yeah, but I love that. I love the suit. Are
we talking like the Black Venom suit? That was the best Spider-Man.
That was awesome.
Him 3, strutting down the street.
I really enjoyed that. The black suit in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and Tom Holland's Spider-Man. We haven't seen that Venom suit, but I really thought that was cool. The black Spider-Man suit is definitely a top one for me.
I mean, as I already said, yeah, Tobey Maguire was my favorite Spider-Man of all time. He's the OG. I think Andrew Garfield gets a little bit of hate just because, it's Andrew Garfield.
I think he gets a lot of hate, but I think he's an amazing actor. Hacksaw Ridge is an amazing movie, and he does an amazing job in that movie. He has a new movie out called Tick, Tick, Boom that was actually very well done, I believe.
Well, okay. So ultimately, what were your feelings on Tom Holland? I'm not a big Tom Holland fan. I think he gets way too much credit for what he does.
I think Tom Holland's Spider-Man was a good casting choice. He's a young actor. He could do the flips. He did gymnastics, so he could do all the flips and stuff. It's very agile, if you will. He looks like a high schooler. I think Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, they're a little bit older actors. And in movies, you generally see sometimes, I'd say, an older actor or actress playing a younger role. So I don't think that was a horrible mistake, because it did give us Tobey Maguire Spider-Man ultimately.
Well, I mean, Stan Lee has already came out and said, obviously Stan Lee no longer alive, but Stan Lee's already admitted, before he passed away, that Tom Holland is what he imagined as Spider-Man. Like, he is the stereo. When he created the character, that's what he envisioned. So, I mean, love him or hate him, he is what Stan Lee
he is
imagined.
Yes.
All right, so I mean, obviously we've both seen the movie. I think we've actually probably seen it together at some point.
Probably.
But what were your honest opinions? Like, tell me what you thought of it. Was it something you would go back and rewatch? Because I tried to rewatch it the other day and I forgot it was Sony, and it was definitely not on Disney.
Yeah, I even saw it in theaters multiple times. I really enjoyed the film, and I think, especially with the Into the Spider-Verse movie, that really opened up, I guess, the idea of maybe bringing in Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Or at least I never really thought of making a movie like this until that animated movie came out. And I think that it really opened up that idea for the directors and the writers at Marvel, and I'm glad they teamed up with Sony and were able to get it done.
I think a lot of Marvel fans were expecting the multiverse to come. Didn't know quite when, but they were expecting it to come.
Especially if they read the comics,
Yeah.
the multiverse is something that's brought up multiple times.
Oh, 100%.
And there's lots of storylines that include the multiverse and bringing different heroes together. And I think that it was expected. We just didn't really know when. And I think a lot of people kind of put it out of their mind thinking, none of these actors really are going to come together. But after that whole phase one, with Iron Man and the first Avengers movie, and bringing some big A-list actors together for a giant superhero movie, I think that it really broadened the horizons for the Marvel franchise.
So I got to be honest. I rarely can understand what the hell they're talking about when it comes to the phases. Like, they lost track after, what was it, Endgame? Because wasn't that, what was that, Phase 3?
That was something like that. I gotta be honest, I don't really know the phases.
I don't know the order.
I just know that they are planning all the way out to some absurd number.
Well, yeah, of course.
That
right.
diehard Marvel fans can.
Well, every year they release that little picture where it's like a spider web of
and it's
the list of everything.
Timeline of everything that they're going to come out with for this phase and all that.
Okay, so like you, I did enjoy the movie. I thought it was good. I don't think it was great. I think it definitely was just a nostalgia trip. I think Marvel, Disney, they know how to bring in the money. They know how to bring in the viewers, and they capitalize on that. I think the minute they mentioned multiverse, immediately the wheels started turning. Guess what? We're going to bring in Tobey Maguire. We're going to bring in Andrew Garfield. We're going to bring in William Dafoe as, Green Goblin. We're going to bring in Dr. Ock. Like, I think they started bringing all these names in automatically, knowing people are going to come watch this, because you and me, who grew up with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, we're going to watch it. We're going, just because they're in it.
I agree. But I would also say that it was, they tried to put it under the sheets, if you will, with the whole Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire cameos in the movie.
Oh yeah, they tried
to keep it a secret. But,
Yeah, but
there's
something's
people out
so
there.
that big, it's gonna get
Yeah,
out.
there's people out there that will nitpick at every little thing. I remember watching a breakdown of the trailer, and in one of the big
this
fight
generation.
scenes, in one of the big fight scenes, you see the lizard almost looks like he got hit in the face. Sure enough, in the big fight scene, one of the Spider-Mans hits the big lizard in the face. So like, it's just it breaks it down and I remember the first time watching it in the theaters. As soon as you see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man come out of the portal,
I think you saw Andrew Garfield first, though.
You did.
I was going to say, it was Andrew Garfield and then Tobey.
Did I say Tobey Maguire
first? Yeah, you
first?
said Tobey first.
I meant Andrew Garfield. As soon as you saw his Spider-Man come out of the portal, the movie theater just starts cheering.
Erupting in applause.
It's same thing with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And you can definitely tell that they kind of anticipated something like that, because there's a little bit of a pause when you see them.
I think the first time you see it, the portal opens up and you see a Spider-Man at the end, and he like looks back and he's like, "Oh, what is that?"
And they're all like, "Peter, come here, come here," and he jumps through the portal. One thing I do say, going back to you saying my favorite Spider-Man.
Oh, Andrew Garfield. So are you admitting now it is?
I'm not. He's not my favorite Spider-Man, but one thing I will say about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is that scene, if Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Mans were reversed, I don't think it would have worked the same way. The way Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is more witty, I would say. In the comics, Spider-Man is witty with his comebacks and talking during the fights, and you see that in the Spider-Man movies. But I think they did it a little more in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Mans. I think they kind of made him more of a smartass, kind of like a lovable smartass,
Well, I also think you kind of have this area where it's Tobey Maguire is 25 to 30, that age range. Those were what we saw.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Andrew Garfield that's like 18 to 25. That was what they knew. And then Tom Holland's everything else.
Okay, yeah.
So I think, you brought in because most of the people that are going to see this movie are going to be in that age range. Aged 18 to 40, 35, somewhere in there. So you're going to bring in somebody who maybe is a little bit more, hey, let's get this. But they know the real person that's going to bring the people in is Tobey Maguire. We're going to save him for last. They're going to tease you with Andrew Garfield and then say, guess what? Actually, here's Tobey Maguire.
That whole scene, I agree with what you're saying, but I just think the whole scene of them, MJ and Ned just kind of standoffish at first with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I really liked the way that scene was written. And I did think it was pretty funny with her throwing the bread, trying to see if he's got his spidey sense, and him climbing on the walls, getting the cobweb. I thought that was.
I mean, it was a funny scene. I'll give you.
I thought it was good.
Now, you brought up MJ. It just made me think of something else. We talked about it briefly before we even started. What does MJ stand for?
Michelle Jones in this Spider-Man.
Yeah. So that I don't know where I was thinking. Obviously. Mary Jane.
Jane.
That's what.
Kirsten Dunst.
Like that's automatically what I think. And then all of a sudden, doing the research, getting everything together, I'm typing in everything, looking it up, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, because this is the first time you really hear Michelle Jones in the movie.
She definitely was. What's her name? Zendaya.
Coleman, yeah.
She's in the other movies, and I'm not discounting her role in the other movies, but I would say now in this one, she definitely played a little bit bigger.
Yeah, definitely.
Because now the secret's out. Ned and, MJ know his secret. They're part of his crew. So, now they're a little bit more involved, where the first two, she was just kind of this love interest of Peter.
Yeah, Ned was always there as the best friend, the nerdy best friend, because they're the nerds.
So I gotta ask you. This was a big topic when it first came out. I remember seeing TikToks and YouTube videos all over the place about this. There's a scene at the very end where Zendaya's falling, and Tom Holland Spider-Man can't get to her. I think he gets taken out by
Green Goblin.
Green Goblin, and Andrew Garfield springs into action.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring this up if you didn't. That scene was well written. I really liked that emotional moment.
Well, you knew
in
she
the
wasn't
movie.
going to die because
We knew she wasn't going to die, but it was just a big emotional moment for Andrew Garfield Spider-Man in particular, with him not being able to save Gwen when she was falling, being too slow, and he finally saves her. And I don't know if this was intentional, but one thing I do notice is in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, when Gwen is falling, he tries to reach her with his web.
Yeah.
And that's he finally gets her, but
Yeah.
it's too late. This time,
he didn't.
he didn't go for the web. He just sprung towards her to grab her with his arms, almost as if, he learned from his mistakes. And just that emotional moment when, he's are you okay? And she's like, yeah, are you okay? And he's sitting there almost tearing up. It was just a beautiful moment for that character.
I can agree. So, let me spin off into something else here. Favorite Spider-Man love interest? Kristen Dunst, Mary Jane. You got Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, and then obviously MJ.
Zendaya.
Yeah.
As
Which
Michelle
one's
Jones.
your favorite?
I want to say growing up, I kind of probably had a crush on Emma Stone, especially for some reason with her in Zombieland. Emma Stone is just, I thought she was a very good looking actress.
What about the Kristen Dunst upside down kiss? I think
Exactly,
it won
the
best kiss
upside-down
of the
kiss.
year at one point.
And the upside down kiss is iconic, and you can't beat it. And I think because of that, it outweighs my crush, I'd say. And I think I would say Kirsten Dunst is my favorite love interest of all the Spider-Mans.
Okay, what about Zendaya? Are they Tom Holland and Zendaya? They just not meeting the standards?
I don't discredit them in any way. I'm just saying, if I had to pick one, it would be Kirsten Dunst.
Okay. So what we talked about the love interest. We talked about what we thought of the movie. What do you think of the villains? I mean, obviously we had some classic villains come back. We had Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. We had Doc Ock come back. We had Electro. What was his name? Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
He came back. And then obviously we had Lizard Boy, but
so the Lizard Man is actually one of the first villains in the Spider-Man comics.
yeah.
So that was kind of an old callback, and we get references to him, and it's actually an end credit scene in one of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man's, the Rhinoceros.
Yeah, I remember that. It was after Gwen Stacy died.
Exactly, yeah. So I think one of my favorites is when we're talking about superhero villains, one performance always comes to mind. Talking about superhero villains, it's Heath Ledger's Joker.
Hold on,
and I know that's DC.
We're not going into all superheroes.
I know.
We're talking about Spider-Man. Out of the Spider-Man villains that we saw appear on the screen, which one was your favorite?
Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin.
I mean, I definitely think he's a lot of people's favorite. I think was the best actor on the screen. I mean, it's Willem Dafoe.
Well, I'm just saying, with Heath Ledger's Joker, there was a lot of that. You have to be a certain almost type of crazy to play that role that well. I think Green Goblin, in some ways, is a lot similar. He's kind of crazy. He's got this darker half. Is what they call it in the film. This darker half that's kind of taking over his body, because he is a scientist and he was trying to do good, but when the serum wasn't complete and he ended up being Green Goblin, there's this darker half that kind of just took over him and all of his, hate and rage and all those bad emotions just come up with this darker half of him, and the voice changes, and you can tell in the movie which half is talking, and it's just he's almost playing two different characters. And there's one moment in the film when they finally cure Doc Ock. He's the first villain that they cure with putting the new chip in his neck, and he turns around and he says, "Are you ready to be complete again? No more darker half." And you hear Willem Dafoe say, "Just me," but it was Green Goblin's voice. It wasn't Dr. Osborn's voice, it was Green Goblin's voice, which I thought was a little tiny, if you want to call it an Easter egg. I thought it was really, really cool to hear that.
So, I mean, obviously William Dafoe, Green Goblin, I think he was the best villain in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you who I thought got a really good chance at a redo was Electro. I think, in The Amazing Spider-Man with Electro, he was goofy, and then he turned into a blue dude. Where this movie now, he's more human-like. Yeah, he still has the powers, but I just feel like they did that character better. I feel like they didn't do him justice in The Amazing Spider-Man, so I felt like he finally got his chance to be a villain.
And I like the way that they wrote in the arc reactor
Mm-hmm.
being his source of power, where in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, they're fighting in the power grid, and that's where he's getting all of his power. But in this one, he's got the arc reactor on his chest, and that's where he's getting his power. I like how they wrote that into the script. And I don't know if you know this, but it was actually a call that Jamie Foxx made. He only wanted to play the character again if he wasn't blue.
Yeah, I
He didn't want to
heard
be
that.
blue. So
I'd
they
also
wrote
heard
that
there
into
was
the
a
script.
few more stipulations in that, like he had to have a day off to golf or something like that. But
It wouldn't surprise me.
But I knew it was definitely he didn't want to be blue again.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't disagree with it. I like the look of Jamie Foxx's character in No Way Home versus his look in The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I can agree with that. So, how do you think this movie handled the concept of the multiverse?
I think that they introduced the concept into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, right? I think that they kind of introduced it, but they didn't really explain it all that well.
So I read an article, this was probably months back, that apparently Doctor Strange was supposed to come before Spider-Man.
The Multiverse of Madness?
Yeah, they were supposed to have the Multiverse of Madness, and then they were supposed to have Spider-Man No Way Home. Obviously, COVID happened. People's schedules, shooting kind of went into whack. Spider-Man was closer to being done than Multiverse of Madness. Disney and Marvel decided, hey, we're going to push this forward. I don't remember where I read this, but I remember reading it somewhere. And if you take that seriously, it makes a little more sense. Because I feel like this movie, it didn't really dive into the multiverse very well. I feel like, okay, cool, you brought some characters over from, different universes, but you didn't really explain the multiverse. You didn't, even bringing Doctor Strange in, doesn't explain anything. It wasn't until you got to Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness that we started understanding it.
And they started explaining the multiverse better.
That's why I think that actually might have been true, because if that would have been how it took place, we would have learned about the multiverse, and then we would have had Spider-Man.
But then they do try to dive into it a little bit with, messing with the multiverse and how it's dangerous, and in Multiverse Madness, you watch it afterwards, but when you do watch it, you do understand why it is dangerous, in MCU to.
But see, here's a concept that I just thought about. So you've also seen Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Mhm.
So in there, only one person can travel through the multiverses, and that's the girl that's trying to help. But in Spider-Man,
America Chavez is her
they're
name.
able to open portals for the multiverse with their sling rings.
Well, he wasn't opening the portals to the multiverse.
Oh yeah, they were already here. Okay, I stand correct. Yeah, they were already here.
Yeah, he wasn't opening the portal to the multiverse. They were brought into
Mhm.
Tom Holland's universe.
That is true. That is true. I remember now. All right. Did this movie meet your expectations as a whole? Do you think that this was a good movie? Like, would you recommend this to your average person?
I think that superhero movies are kind of jumbled up into their own genre, almost. For the average person, I think you kind of have to like a superhero type movie in order to like the Marvel movies. And if those are the kind of movies that you like, I would recommend this movie to you, especially, if you've seen, bits and pieces of the Spider-Man movies. I think that this one kind of brings it together. You were saying it's a nostalgia trip, and I think that this movie had a lot of fan service in it. And I think that it's more enjoyable if you have seen those movies. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, and The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. I think they're more enjoyable if you've seen those movies. But to the average person, it's kind of hard to tell depending on what kind of movies you'd like. I think if you just jumped into it, you wouldn't really get the same nostalgia trip if you were just, scrolling through some movies and happened to stumble upon this one. I think you would miss a lot of what made it enjoyable for the rest of us.
So I mean, you touched on it a little bit earlier. I think no matter what, there's going to be a certain demographic that's going to go see this movie no matter what. If you've seen the previous Spider-Mans, you've seen the previous Marvel movies, you're going to just go watch it. That being said, I think people have to be prepared for what, like, they need to have their expectations settled. I think if you want to see something where you can turn off your mind, not necessarily think very deep, have a few laughs, remember a better time when we had better Spider-Man, go watch it. I think it'll make you remember Tobey Maguire. Make you remember Andrew Garfield. Whether you like Tom Holland or not, he's a decent Spider-Man. I think you can't sell him short, but I think that's all it is it's a nostalgia trip. And I think if you're prepared, you know what you're getting into, go watch it. If I had to rate it, I would probably put it like a 7. But
Okay.
either way, it was good to watch at least once. I don't think I'd go back and watch it again. Unless I'm just in a kick if I want to go through and watch movies in order like we do sometimes.
Right.
But other than that, I thought it was good.
I did think it was good.
All right, so one last question before we kind of wrap all this up. How do you think this movie set us up for the Marvel Universe in general? Obviously, we know Marvel's planning things 10, 15 years out with 15 different phases already planned. But how do you think we go forward from here? Because obviously, since this has came out, we've got Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. We've gotten, what was American Chavez? Didn't they come out with a TV show for her? Or no, it was Miss Marvel. That was it. Miss Marvel. We've already got, Loki came out around the same time. We've already got some other shows that came out. We had
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk. We've already have other things coming out. How do you think we still go forward? Do you think we continue to dive down the multiverse rabbit hole?
Last time I was watching this movie, the thought actually came up. I think it would be kind of cool, and I think people would watch it if they kind of. I'm not necessarily saying that it needs to, be its own movie, separately, but I think it'd be cool to see, like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man going back to his universe. The second that he goes back to his universe, and Andrew Garfield the second he goes back to his universe, and how all these guys fare from the events of this movie. I think it'd be really cool, as of how it sets us up for future movies. Obviously, you had the multiverse. It was one of the bigger movies for the multiverse, other than Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which it's in the title, so obviously it's going to be about the multiverse, right? When I watched Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, I personally feel like it had a lot of potential for a lot of cameos, and we didn't get as many as we wanted, but we did get cameos in it, and I think that it opens it up for bringing in new characters that we haven't seen in previous movies. I also would like to see Marvel build more on Fantastic Four, which I know that they're planning already. Fantastic Four was a big
flop.
Yeah, but
I mean, hold on. Which Fantastic Four are we talking about?
It's got Jessica Alba. So.
Okay, we're talking about the original Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you were talking about.
I'm not talking about those movies in particular. I'm talking about just the Fantastic Four as a superhero group. The Fantastic Four were big in the Spider-Man comics. They were big in the Marvel comics. I mean, you got Dr. Reed, who is literally the smartest man in the universe. I think they're very big characters that we haven't really introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah, we've made movies, we made Fantastic Four movies, but when we're thinking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's everything that's pretty much come out after Iron Man in 2008.
I mean, yeah, you're right.
Everything after that is pretty much what we consider the MCU right now.
It's true.
So I think that they need. I'd like to see more Fantastic Four stuff. We did see Dr. Reed, Mr. Fantastic in Multiverse Madness. Did he get as much screen time as I would like? No, but he's played by John Krasinski, who I really like as an actor. I really like John Krasinski.
Yeah, he's a smoke show.
Yeah, I mean, you can't deny it. But I would really like to see that. I know that they're planning Secret Wars, and I did read something that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is gonna have more screen time in Secret Wars. How they're gonna do that, I don't really know. But I think that if the actors were willing to, and I know Andrew Garfield is definitely willing to, if the actors are willing to, I think we could definitely see the Spider-Mans again in future projects, and maybe even have a movie in the future with, more superheroes than even Endgame.
So, what I would like to see Marvel or Sony do is I'd like to see a live action, Into the Spider-Verse. I think that would have been better than what we got. I think if you could have brought in all these different Spider-Men, if you would have made that. Because you kind of already did with Into the Spider-Verse, and I know there's a sequel coming out with the follow-up to that.
Right.
But I feel like, bring us that. Bring us Miles Morales. You can bring back Tobey Maguire. You can bring back Andrew Garfield. Hell, you can bring Tom Holland back in if you do a live-action Into the Spider-Verse.
I do agree bringing Miles Morales Spider-Man into...
I mean,
the live action MCU.
You have Miles Morales Spider-Man video games now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I honestly like the way they did the Into the Spider-Verse. I like the comic book style animation that they did. I liked that part of it, and there's certain things that you can do with animated movies and even shows that you can't do with live action. And would I be disappointed if they made a live action big giant Into the Spider-Verse type movie? No, I wouldn't. I would watch it. But would I be sad if they didn't? I kind of like where they're going with it, and I'm excited to see the new one.
Well, I mean, I can agree with everything that you just said there. I mean, I think Spider-Man has always played a big role in, I mean, pop culture. I think he's been people's favorite superhero for years, and will continue to be people's favorite superhero. There's a reason why we still get Spider-Man movies. There's a reason why you can still pick up comic books. Like, there's a reason why we're still making animated series. So, I mean, I think no matter what, whether you like Tom Holland, you like Tobey Maguire, you like Andrew Garfield, I think every generation has their Spider-Man. This is this generation's. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Sony or Marvel can do going forward with Spider-Man.
100%.
So, I mean, I appreciate you coming on today, talking with me. It's been a lot of fun. I mean,
It has been.
some
Well,
of
I'm
the
always
stuff
down to talk
we've
movies.
talked about before. So, I mean,
Yeah.
just glad to actually get you on here.
Before we go, I want to ask you what your favorite, earlier we were comparing the Spider-Man movies. We were comparing love interests. But I want to ask you what your favorite Spider-Man scene is of all the movies that we've seen. Of all 8 Spider-Man movies, what is your favorite Spider-Man scene?
Ooh, that one's a tough one. So obviously Tobey Maguire is my favorite Spider-Man, but I would say my favorite Spider-Man scene, I think we talked about it briefly, the very ending of what is Amazing Spider-Man 2. When Gwen Stacy dies, it would have been very easy for Peter to hang up his fucking, skin tight suit and be peace out, guys.
Right.
But instead, it goes into the ending with him, there's a little kid going up to Rhino, and you just hear the web shooter, and all of a sudden here comes Andrew Garfield swinging into action.
Yeah.
I think that was a powerful scene. I think it shows that, like, even when you're at your lowest, you still got to pick your head up and continue on. I would say that, or with the end credit scene, bringing Venom, Tom Hardy's Venom, in.
And a piece of the symbiote
Yeah.
still sitting on the bar.
I think I really like just that scene in general. I like Tom Hardy as Venom, so seeing him, potentially make an appearance, it really got me going.
Yeah, that was cool. I would like to see more of Tom Hardy's Venom play a bigger role in the MCU. As for me, a few scenes come to mind. As you mentioned, Tobey Maguire. That's our Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, of course.
Few scenes come to mind for him. I will choose. I have to choose one though, right? You can't have a more than one favorite. But a few come to mind. I'd say one when those flying ninja star things are being thrown at him in the burning building by Green Goblin in the first
Yeah.
Spider-Man movie, and he does that jump and goes through,
Jump,
and
twist,
gets the
yeah.
cut, and then we get that scene where he's on the ceiling and the drop of blood, and Dr. Norman Osborn is trying to figure out, is Peter Parker Spider-Man. I really like that scene. Really love the scene with the train, where he's stopping the train, and his mask is off when he's fighting Doc Ock, and everyone kind of carries him, cradles him back, and then puts his mask back on. And just those people in that train car saw Spider-Man's identity, and they chose to keep him a secret because they know how important Spider-Man is to the community.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That was a powerful scene.
And then another one that comes to mind is the opening scene to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he's flying through it opens up with the back of his suit, and you see the iconic spider symbol, and he flies through, and then you hear him, chatting it up with the civilians, just like, "Good morning, pedestrians," and
Oh yeah.
he's answering Gwen Stacy's call when he's like riding on the front of the ambulance or the fire truck there, and I just really like that scene, and then it ties into the first one where he's kind of catches a glimpse of Gwen Stacy's dad, and it's promise that he made to her and that internal conflict, and I think that sets up good internal conflict for the character for
Yeah.
the rest of the film. But like I said, I gotta choose one, and I'm gonna go with the train scene in Spider-Man 2.
I think it's a very good scene, so I can get down with that. Well, again, Hughes, thanks for having you on. This has been a lot of fun. I hope I can get you back on here again, maybe for another one. Maybe I'll let you pick the movie this time.
I'm always down to talk movies.
I know. Maybe next time we'll do what's your favorite movie? The Goonies. We'll do the Goonies.
I am a Goonies fan, but I want to say it's definitely up there. But like I have always said and always will say, I don't think my top 3 will ever change, and that's Jaws, Tombstone, and Jurassic Park in no particular order. I think that'll never change. Those movies will always 100% be at the top of my list.
Nice. Well, thank you again. Thank you guys for tuning in, listening. I hope you decide to turn it back on again and listen to me next week. I think next week we're going to be doing Die Hard, the new Kevin Hart movie, where we're talking about modern comedy versus classic comedy. And we're going to be discussing, is new comedy dead? So I hope y'all tune in. Until next time, peace.